Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Talkin' Track. I'm Ryan Stillman, and with me, as always, is my incredible co-host, Aaron Halterman of Racing Dudes. Aaron, how you doing today, buddy?
I'm good, man. Ready to rock. The 100-point races are here. We're going to talk about those. You've got Ryan from the Pedigree expert back again, so I can't be more excited for this show. I woke up ready, so I hope you're ready.
Oh, I'm pumped. We've got swiping with my sister with the most requested horse of all time. We are going to be swiping on today, guys. Caldera. We've seen the messages. You're not going to want to miss it. We've got so much to get to. We've even got questions from you guys. We're going to the mailbag today. You're not going to want to miss it. Plus free picks for the 2 Kentucky Derby preps. Let's jump in with the game we like to call Bet or Pass. Last week's Kentucky Derby prep was the Virginia Derby. When the dust settled, there was a lot to unpack there. So I thought about 3 big names that were in that race, the biggest stories, in my opinion. And I asked Aaron if he would bet or pass on them for the Kentucky Derby. So let's start with the winner of that race. Aaron, American Promise is a pass for the Derby. Let's talk about it. Why?
Yeah, you hate to be negative about a horse that was able to win running away from the rest of the field. Received a 95 Beyer speed figure as well, but it really just felt like American Promise was the only one that really ran his race at all in that one. It was strange. Everybody just kind of was lackluster. He was very good. You got to give him credit. He stalked the pace. He was right there when it was time to run, and he put away getaway car, something his stablemate Caldera couldn't do in the Sunland Derby. He was able to do easily in the Virginia Derby. But with all that being said, we've kind of seen him when he's faced tougher horses, and it hasn't been that great. So I think he's still a pass for me as far as betting him in the Kentucky Derby, but I'm happy that he won. And if you picked him on Virginia Derby Day, it was a good pick and he ran very, very well, but I still am not convinced as far as the Kentucky Derby goes.
Aaron, I'm with you. I actually have a cool thing that I want to talk about really quick with this horse. The last few years on the Derby Trail, I've kind of noticed there are these moments, and I'm going to go back 2 years. I think it was 2 years to 2 fills, where it was like, oh, he ran this really big race. He got a good number, better than American Promise's number. But it was like over a synthetic track. What was that? I'm going to pass. Mystic Dan last year, he ran a really good prep race. He had a good moment, good number, better than American Promise. I'm aware. But I do try to keep track of these moments where you're like, whoa, that was big. Even in a race I didn't really sort of think was much. So first question on that is, do you do the same thing? Like, this was a very good performance in and of itself. Are you kind of taking stock in that?
Yeah, you do have to keep in mind, what happens during that race. Don't let what you thought about before the race really affect it, right? So, for example, like a horse, Elite Power, who was a Breeders' Cup Sprint winner a couple of years ago, he prepped in a race that was very weak, and he had a huge performance, but everybody was kind of like, it was a weak race, it doesn't matter. And then he went on to win the Breeders' Cup Sprint twice, actually. He went back-to-back seasons. So you kind of just going to take each performance for what it is for when you see it. And for me, it's like, okay, and you kind of laid out why he's still a bet against for me. He had a massive performance, one of the best performances, the best performance of his career, but it wasn't the number that Mystic Dan got. It wasn't the number 2 Phil's got. It was still a notch below. So it's like now he's going to have to raise his game even more for the Kentucky Derby, and that's kind of where I draw the line.
I'm totally with you. With Lucas horses, I respect Lucas so much. And you too, you just wonder, like, is he a horse that hits the board somewhere along the way? Maybe not even, but
yeah.
But cool to see. Let's talk about the next horse, Render Judgment. He was the runner-up, Kenny McPeak trained. In fact, in this picture you're looking at, he's beating American Promise in his lone win. But he's a pass for you, and I get it. Why don't you talk about it for a sec?
Yeah, life comes at you fast in the horse racing game, right? Render Judgment beating American Promise, and then it was in a different zip code as him in this race. But look, again, and you don't want to be negative. It was a nice second-place effort. I thought he ran better than what we had seen. However, what we have seen from him when he was facing better horses, it wasn't very good. And this race wasn't very good either. So therefore, I just can't get behind him. I think he might be a popular one maybe he'll hit the board and blow up the superfecta, but not for me. I just don't have a lot of interest in him in the Derby.
No, I'm with you. If I'm looking for a horse to blow up the board and hit the superfecta, I would just pick the horse that drilled him here if I had to choose. And I don't want him at this second. At this second, I'm with you, man. Let's talk about Bob Baffert's horse, who was the horse to beat on paper other than the Brad Cox entry getaway car. Horrible. Pass for you and a pass for me. But tell me why he's a pass for the Derby for you.
I love how you described it. Horrible, which it really was. So a lot of people are going to say, I don't know if Caldera is very good. He couldn't beat getaway car in the Sunland Derby. pump the brakes a little bit, and we'll discuss that a little bit more later in the show. But this getaway car just didn't show up for this race. Every race he's been in, if he didn't win, you at least exit the race and go, well, he was trying as hard as he could, and he kind of ran his race. I tell you what, Saturday, about the 6 furlong pole, he just kind of said the heck with it, and that's just not him. So he showed up and he ran a clunker. But here's the deal. Even if he showed up and won that race, we kind of know who he is. We know that he's a good horse, but he's not going to be able to compete against the really, really good horses in the Kentucky Derby. He was a pass coming into the race, and he's definitely a pass now. I'm skeptical that they even try to run him in it. Maybe he needs a little bit of a break after that one.
I'm with you. Actually, Aaron, a little behind the scenes stuff that I've been kind of tracking was Gaming, who was third in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. Yep, you know this, but if you don't know, guys, he fell off the radar recently because after he was third there, he's just sort of been lackluster, underperforming. Well, he's been firing like just amazing workouts at Santa Anita for him. And Baffert, it seemed, was pointing him for this spot, the Virginia Derby. And it almost appears like, oh, Gaming wasn't ready. Getaway Car's there. Let me try to steal one. Let me try to get him in there. So I really don't fully blame Getaway Car, Aaron. You know what I mean? Under those circumstances, I don't know that he wanted to be in this spot.
I agree with you 100% on that. I think it was kind of a last minute thing. And I think they were comfortable with it because the Sunland Derby was kind of a last minute thing as well. And he went over there and he did great. However, it's hard to keep doing that over and over. He just went out there. They thought he could get the job done in a race like this, and he was just dull. So draw a line through it, but still not a Derby horse for me.
Well, when we come back, we're going to not draw some lines through some things. We've got my sister doing that for us. Swiping with my sister. You are not going to want to miss it. Our most requested horse ever, Caldera, on the other side of this break. See you there. Hello, everybody, and welcome back. It's time for everybody's favorite game, Swiping with My Sister. Okay, for those of you who are new to this segment, my sister is a champion equestrian rider. She's been sitting on horses since she was 11 months old. She doesn't pay one iota of attention to horse racing, but she has studied horses her entire life. I showed my sister pictures of 4 Kentucky Derby hopefuls. And just like online dating, you know how it goes. She's swiping left or right solely based on looks. If she swipes left, the horse has left her unimpressed. If she swipes right, she thinks the horse has the right stuff to be a Derby winner. She has tons of great insight. Today, we have 4 horses to choose from, and these horses are all running in the Louisiana Derby. Aaron, you're going to have to guess how she swiped, and we're going to start with the horse everyone wants to talk about here, Caldera. Aaron, did my sister swipe left or right on Caldera for the Kentucky Derby?
Please swipe right on this one because I don't want to hear the feedback. If you swipe left, I'm praying. I'm going to go swipe right. I don't want the MyRacehorse Army mad at us. Swipe right. Come on, Jen. Do it for me one time. Swipe right.
Let's take a look. Let's take a look.
Okay, this is a tough one for me to answer just based off of, I'll break it down for you. I think he's beautiful. I think he's extremely well balanced on both the front and the end. I think he has a beautiful gait, and I really do like him. My concern is that I don't necessarily know if he'll go the distance. I just can't tell for certain. I'm going to swipe right, cautiously saying that I believe that he will make the board. I think I would bet on him to be in the top 4. And that's just my opinion. I think he's absolutely beautiful. Just gorgeous.
Aaron, let's go. Congratulations. And yeah, she was very impressed with his stride, by the way, guys. When we were done with that, she talked. She really likes this horse. She doesn't know their pedigrees. She's just looking there. But yeah, I mean, what do you think, Aaron?
Oh, it's good. It was a very good review. I'm glad she swiped right. I was terrified she's going to swipe left, and I didn't want to read the comments. I think she said a lot of what we've been talking about, right? The stride is such a big thing for him, and he has a huge stride. So, yeah, it was good. Very good. Good start. We're off to a very good start.
Here's the thing. She was talking about his pedigree. It is an interesting pedigree by Liam's Map, not known for going long, but you know, then he's got distance underneath possibly. Here's the deal, guys. Coming up after this segment, we talk to a pedigree expert, and one of the horses he touches on is Caldera, so you're not going to want to miss it. Stay tuned for that. Let's go to the second horse from the Louisiana Derby that we're going to cover. John Hancock, left or right for my sister, Aaron?
I'm going to go right again. I like John Hancock quite a bit. I think he's a looker, so I'm going to go right again.
Okay, let's see.
Right. I love this one. Beautiful horse. absolutely stunning. Like Secretariat vibes, just like huge stride, beautiful horse. I love him. Put money on this one. I think that this one's a contender for the Kentucky Derby.
Wow. And, I would show that to John Hancock just for his confidence. The Secretariat vibes, a handsome horse. That's a confidence booster,
I feel more confident in my pick later in the show. She was right away. Boom, right. Love him. All right.
No.
Love it. So she's got to redeem herself, though, because she was pretty tough on American Promise, and he won. So hopefully she's right on these first two. It'd be great. I don't think anybody out there watching that's a Caldera owner would hate second place in John Hancock finishing first, or obviously flip it. That'd be great, too. That'd be a good result. Love those two horses. We'll see what happens. I love that I'm 2 for 2 as well, Ryan.
I also blame myself a little for American Promise, guys. When these horses aren't winning much, I'm taking pictures from post parades. I'm taking it here, but it is what it is. And that's what's funny about this game, Aaron. Looks aren't everything, right? We saw that last week. So let's talk about another one where looks aren't everything. Built. Aaron, did my sister swipe left or right for the Kentucky Derby based on looks?
I'm going to go left on Built. I'm going to think that she might think he's a little small. That picture, he looks kind of small compared to the first two horses we talked about. So I'm going to go left on Built.
Okay, let's take a look.
I don't think he's going to win the Derby, so left on that. I do think he'll hit the board. I'm not really a big fan of this one. He does look balanced and like he's got a good heart, and I think given being in the right position on the track that day, I think he would run a good race. But again, I wouldn't be, expecting this one to pull out like a miracle and win the Kentucky Derby. But I think it could make the board and be in the top 5 for sure.
Very good. Aaron, you guys are synced up, and I'm terrified when that happens. There's a lot going on here.
Yeah, we feel pretty good about it. I think her and I both kind of mentally tried to take a reset after last week and what happened. And I think all's right with the world. Every relationship, Ryan, they have their ups and downs, their bumps, their moments like that. And, you just have to work through them.
Well, let's see if you can go 4 for 4 with our final one. A horse who's also running in the Louisiana Derby, a horse who last time was placed. A chunk of gold. He was placed in the last prep race down there for the Derby. Did my sister swipe left or right on him for the Kentucky Derby?
That's a very beautiful picture of him. I'll start by saying that. He is a pretty horse, isn't he? Look at him.
Yeah.
Gosh, he looked kind of small, though, for this picture as well. I'm going to go left on this one, but I'm not as confident. This is the least confident I've been out of the 4.
Let's take a look.
I like him. I think he's cute. He looks like he's got a tremendous amount of heart, and I think he's very cute. He doesn't look like he's overly bred well or anything like that, but I like him. He looks like he could hit the board and, kind of be in the top. He could also be in the top placings and hit the board. I don't know what to think about this one. I'm not swiping right on winning, though. That's not happening, but, bless his little heart if he does, but he's a cute one.
I love that.
4 for 4, Aaron.
That's a great assessment. I love that. That's great. It's weird because I feel like we kind of felt the same way. It's like, oh, let's see. And it's like, oh man, what a pretty little horse. So yeah, it's awesome.
Well, what's great is, guys, we have that, these are looks. Now we're going to come back on the other side. Aaron just went 4 for 4 there. We're going to talk about pedigrees. You are not going to want to miss it. We're going to go in depth. And then later on in the show, we're going to give you our picks for the 2 Kentucky Derby preps. And we'll talk more about these horses. See you on the other side. You are not going to want to miss this. Hello, everyone, and welcome back. It's Derby time, and the question everyone wants to know is, can my horse get the 1.25 miles Kentucky Derby distance? The best way to do that is to look at pedigree. So today we have a special guest on our show, a man who I consider to be a pedigree expert, Ryan Campbell of Risen Storm Thoroughbreds. He stands Belmont Stakes winner Taprit, Kentucky Derby runner-up Icebox, and Big Play Sports new stallion, graded stake place son of Not This Time, In Due Time. Ryan, welcome to the show, man.
Hey, nice to be here.
Last time we spoke about a few horses that really run to their pedigrees. This week, we're going to be talking about a few horses, some of which don't really follow the rules. We're going to talk about 3 horses in particular: Citizen Bull, Caldera, and Coal Battle. Ryan, talk to me about 2-year-old champion Citizen Bull.
Citizen Bull, who's by End of Mischief, is out of an unraced dam. named No Joke by Distorted Humor. The big thing with this mare, we can't go by her race record, obviously, because she wasn't raced, but her other foals, the halves to Citizen Bull, one of them was on the lead running through 6 furlongs in a mile race and then just stopped at 6 furlongs. The other half sibling ran second going 5.5 furlongs. So that's showing that she's kind of throwing that sprint distance. And the second dam, Unenchanted Evening by Unbridled Song, she won wire to wire going a mile, but she did produce, in her production, the Saratoga Special winner going 6.5 furlongs, Indian Evening, another stakes place sprint sire, Mo for the Money, and then Moonshine Memories placed second in the Prioress going 6 furlongs. But she also ran in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies, but faded after 6 furlongs. So in the second dam's production, we see a whole lot of sprinting. The first dam's half-sister was a sprinter herself, but she produced Super Hottie Toddy, who won a mile and 16th in a grade 3. So, from what we see in the first 2 dams, we're kind of seeing him outperform his pedigree. But the second dam, one thing that maybe his route ability is coming from is the second dam is the half-sister to Favorite Trick, who was third in the Arkansas going a mile and 1/8. He got beat by a neck, and then he won the Breeders' Cup Juvenile going a mile and 16th, and he also won the Jim Dandy going a mile and 8. So he doesn't really follow the rules of first, second dam is throwing that route distance in it, but I think maybe the route is coming up through the third dam, like she did with Favorite Trick.
Based on what you're seeing, though, Ryan, are you a little skeptical about him being a 1.25 mile horse for the Kentucky Derby?
I would be skeptical, but he's already outperformed the pedigree going the 1.16 mile distance if you look at the first and second dam. So I think this is a true case of a horse who is defying the odds and outperforming his female family.
When you see that, though, Ryan, because people see this horse, sort of running already farther than his pedigree suggests, do you technically see those horses hit walls, or you just don't know and you toss it up and say, they're doing it, might as well keep thinking they'll do it?
You just don't know. If they've already outperformed their pedigree and they're doing it handily, then you don't know where the wall's going to be. The wall could be a mile and 1/8. It could be a mile and a half. He's outperforming his female family, so you just have to, when you're making the bet on him or you're trying to make a pick, it's going to be based on he's already outperformed the distance limitations of his family.
Very interesting. Now, another horse people really want to know about is MyRacehorse's Caldera. What do you see when you look at his pedigree?
Well, the one thing we're going to bring up with Caldera is he is by Liam's map. Liam's map's average winning distance or max winning distance of his progeny is 7.31 furlongs. So he's in the top 10 of route sires with the max average winning distance. But we do see that Caldera is out of a Tisnow mare named Send Me On My Way. There's not enough of her production to base Caldera off of half siblings. So we jump down to the second dam, Spare Change, who's by Bernardini. She herself won at 7 furlongs, but she also produced Roman Centurion, who in his 3-year-old year was on the Derby Trail, and he finished second in a mile and 16th race, which was a grade 2. The other half sibling to the first dam, Story Blue, who was third in a grade 3 going a mile and 16th. So you're seeing that route distance that is under the second dam of the half siblings to the first dam. The third dam is absolutely interesting on Caldera because the third dam is Finder's Fee. Finder's Fee was that mile sprinter type horse, winning multiple graded stakes at a mile and also at 7 furlongs. But she's the dam of Receipt, who won a grade 2 going a mile and a 16th, and is also the dam of Feathered, who is, she won a grade 1 going a mile and a quarter, but she's also the dam of Flightline. And we all know distance was not Flightline's Achilles heel. So Caldera, I think Caldera could go mile and 1/8, mile and a quarter, maybe further. So he is running to his pedigree. I think as he runs, we're starting to see that he's figuring out what he has to do to be a racehorse. And hopefully in his next race, that light comes on and he gets enough points to qualify for the Derby.
That's fascinating. Let's talk about Coal Battle. What do you see when you look at his pedigree?
Coal Battle completely breaks all the rules. He's already won at, the mile and a 16th distance. His sire, Coalfront, he himself is by Stay Thirsty. Stay Thirsty's average max winning distance is 6.92 furlongs. His best runner, mind control was that sprinter miler as well. So we're not seeing a whole lot of distance injection coming in from Stay Thirsty. Cold Battle's first dam, Wolf Blade, is by Midshipman. She herself is stakes placed at 6.5 furlongs, but won 5 times at 4.5 furlongs. So you're seeing very much so the first dam as a sprint horse. Second dam by Leighton Heat, she was stakes placed at 7 furlongs. So once again, another generation of sprinting. She produced a stakes place horse at 7 furlongs. And then the other half sibling to the first dam won twice at 4.5. So in both first and second generation, you're seeing ultra sprinters, that 4.5 furlong and above. We finally get to the third dam, which is maybe where some of his route distance is coming from. Running Creek by Cape Town. She's the dam of Smile Brian, who won at 1 mile and a 16th. Eye on the Finish, who won at 1 mile and a 16th. Easy Time, who has a graded stakes win at 1 mile and a 16th. So if I were to say where his ability to outrun his pedigree is coming from, it's deep in that third dam where you start seeing route. Honestly, he's a shock. If you were just to look at him before he ran, you would never dream by pedigree he'd be doing what he's doing right now.
So for you, for the Kentucky Derby, what do you do with Cold Battle based on what you just said?
Honestly, Cold Battle, it really shocked me digging through this because Cold Battle is one of my favorites. I mean, he would be in my top 4 of horses at this point for the Kentucky Derby. I think he's outrun his pedigree so much. It's one of those, we talked about tools in a toolbox. Well, at this point with Cold Battle, I think you throw the tool completely out of the toolbox and you have to take Cold Battle for him, not for what his pedigree is.
Wow. Well, there you go, Ryan, talking about just pedigrees and when they outrun them. These are some good examples of it. And it's going to be a fascinating first Saturday in May, especially if all these horses get there. Well, thank you so much for coming back on our show, Ryan. You can follow him at CampbellX29 on TikTok. I love his channel. You guys have to check it out. Ryan, love to have you back very soon, man. And best of luck on all your bets this weekend. The Derby Trail just keeps heating up.
Yep. Thank you very much for having me.
Hello, everybody, and we're back with our Kentucky Derby update. Aaron, before we get into everything on the Derby Trail, let's talk about what we just heard. I want to get your thoughts on that interview.
Oh, I thought it was a fantastic interview. And the thing I like a lot about Ryan is he just lays out the facts. Like I had a couple commenters like trying to argue with his thoughts a couple weeks ago. And it's like, there isn't really anything to argue. Like he's just kind of telling you the facts. And so I thought I was super fascinating by Citizen Bull and by Cold Battle. Because he was saying these are pedigrees that don't really scream that they're going to go 1.25 miles, but they're starting to outrun, or they already, I guess, have outran, kind of the distance limitations as far as the pedigree. He also mentions, look, this is just one tool. Here's what I'll say. I've seen more horses outrun a pedigree that says they want to maybe go 6 or 7 furlongs. They can get 1 mile or 1 mile and a 16th. But I think you really need to pay attention to the next 2 races for these horses. They're going to be at 1 mile and an 1/8. At least that's where they're going to be projected. Santa Anita Derby for Citizen Bull, Cold Battle, the Arkansas Derby. In my opinion, this is not a pedigree comment. This is more just a handicapper's comment. Over all the years I've been doing this, it gets harder the longer they go to kind of outrun that pedigree. So 1 mile and an 1/8 is when it starts to get tough for these horses. So if they're truly going to be able to get 1.25 miles, I think you learn a lot more when they run 1 mile and an 1/8 versus when they run 1 mile and a 16th. So it just adds to the storyline of Cold Battle and Citizen Bull. Okay, they've done it at 1 mile and a 16th. I've seen that happen a lot more than the 1 mile and an 1/8. And I think that is going to be the very intriguing thing that Ryan kind of set up there with, he didn't mean to, but he set it up with the storylines. That is going to be fascinating to see. These 2 horses are doing it, but the next test is going to be a very tough test.
I couldn't agree more. That's incredible insight. And yeah, and it's very exciting if you're a Caldera fan, because obviously, when you see these big names that have questions going that far, it seems like he will relish going further. So it'd be really cool if he gets into the Derby, wouldn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. He checks that box if we're not worried about that aspect of it. We got to worry about all the other stuff because, as we know, it's very hard to win any of these big races, let alone the Derby. But you're going into the 1 mile and an 1/8 now and longer races. That's where Caldera will pretty much live the rest of his career, I would imagine. We don't have to worry about that. So that's a very good feeling where, say, if you did own Citizen Bull or if you did own Coal Battle, that's okay. Every race now, when we increase, we've got that in the back of our mind. And that's just another thing to be stressed about, right?
Absolutely. It's really cool to see. And we have several horses on the trail this year who do have longer distance pedigrees, which is nice. Journalism, he talked about Sovereignty and now Caldera, and some that have question marks. And in the hands of Bob Baffert, like Barnes and Citizen Bull, you do always have that insurance if he does do a phenomenal job of getting those horses to run further. So it's a really fun Derby trail. The next few weeks, I mean, we're just up for such a treat. This is a phenomenal year, and I can't wait to see how that plays out. Now let's take a look at our Derby top 10 list, Aaron. As you guys can see, nothing has changed because, look, the big preps are still coming up and American Promise didn't make the list. There could be a lot of changes based on what we see this week in the Louisiana Derby. Caldera could make the list. John Hancock, someone else can jump up. But for now, since that isn't anything to really comment on, what we decided to do was, look, we have a chance to dissect some questions from the mailbag. You guys reached out and had some thoughts for us. So, Aaron, I'm going to throw some questions at you from our viewers. 3 questions for you today. Our fan Andrew asked, could this finally be the year that a horse wins 2 legs of the Triple Crown? Thoughts?
Yeah, we haven't seen that for a while. Justify, who won the Triple Crown, was the last one to win 2, I think there's a better chance of it this year than there has been the previous 2 or 3 or even 4 years because, like we talked about a little bit earlier, or one of the shows, whether it was last week or 2 weeks ago, last year's crop ended up being amazing, but they weren't amazing on Kentucky Derby Day or through the Triple Crown. They blossomed throughout the summer and into the fall. These horses here this year, they seem to have blossomed early. And so you've got a Journalism, a Citizen Bull, a Barnes, a Sovereignty. And you could go on down the list of some that's like, yeah, we got really good horses right now. So yes, I think this is the year we definitely could see 2 out of 3. You would hope it's the first 2. We got the Triple Crown on the line, but even if it's not, I think 2 out of 3 is a possibility.
I think especially when you have Baffert back, Aaron, if one of his horses work, just because he has such a proven track record of getting multiple Triple Crown legs, that helps. But I'm with you. Jamie asks, by the time we're done with the Triple Crown, who will be Baffert's best 3-year-old?
Wow. That's a great question, Jamie. Thanks for sending that one in. I think it's Cornucopian, Ryan. I don't, the only tricky part of that question is, when we're through with the Triple Crown, has he had enough time to develop? Has he had, enough time to win enough big races where we can definitively say that? I'm not sure. Here's what I'll tell you. He was a late nomination to the Arkansas Derby, which will be next week. We'll cover it next week on the show. Okay, a late nomination usually runs in the race. If he runs in the Arkansas Derby, that kind of tells me they think he might be able to go to the Kentucky Derby. If he goes to the Kentucky Derby, then that leaves the Preakness and the Belmont on the table, one or the other or both or whatever. So that tells me Cornucopian. I think he is his best as far as talent goes. So that's going to be my answer. The only thing I would pause on, if they take it a little bit more of a conservative route, maybe that won't be the case, but I'm still going to go Cornucopian.
Yeah, I'm with you, Aaron. He's super exciting, and I can't wait to see what he does. The last question we have is from Dave. He wants to know, last year's runner-up in the Kentucky Derby, Sierra Leone, is running this weekend. Do you guys think he's going to win? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, well, first of all, I would call him last year's 3-year-old of the year and Breeders' Cup champion versus runner-up in the Kentucky Derby, because that broke the hearts of many, I'm sure, out there. Listen, it's going to be great. It is so much fun to have Sierra Leone back. He should win the race. Let's see how he fires first off the layoff. That's always a big question mark. He has to face a horse named Hall of Fame, who has come back off a layoff of his own and rattle off 3 wins, including the local prep race down there at Fairgrounds for this one. So an informed horse versus a horse that we know is a monster. I think Sierra Leone's going to get the job done, but Hall of Fame will prove difficult in that race.
But let's talk about the Louisiana Derby and free picks on the other side of this break. Let's try to get you guys paid. See you when we get back. All right, guys, welcome back. Saturday, race 12 at Fairgrounds is the Louisiana Derby. The winner of this race will earn 100 Kentucky Derby qualifying points. That's a win and you're in if you're new to the game. The runner-up will earn 50 points. That's honestly enough probably to get you in as well, depending on what else you have. it's pretty secure there. Multiple horses could earn their spot in the Kentucky Derby is what we're getting at here based on what we see. Nothing seems impossible looking at this field though, Aaron. I think the numbers are close. Let's talk about how you see it first.
Well, just the overall outlook of this race as I started to kind of dissect it. And usually when we get to these last preps, it's more of like, okay, we have the known commodities. We've got 2 or 3 real headliners. And it's like, okay, we know they're good. Will these other horses kind of elevate their game, or will these kind of more established horses win? We don't necessarily have that here. It's still more of a race where we're going into it trying to learn versus going into it going, okay, we know what we got here. So that is kind of an interesting element here. The fairgrounds is usually a pretty decent circuit, at least recently, the last 3 or 4 years. This year, it hasn't really been, we had a horse named Magnitude that freaked last time out in the Risen Star, but he got injured. Some just horses really haven't developed down here. So it's kind of a mishmash group. We still have a lot more proving to do versus the old kind of established horse at this moment.
I think you put that perfectly. When I looked at this field, Aaron, it looks like John Hancock is the horse you have to beat. I love how Owen Almighty, who he beat in just an epic brawl, he came back and won his last prep very impressively. Is that how you saw it? John Hancock's the one you got to beat?
Yeah, I think he is the one to beat. He is going to be my top pick in the race, Ryan. And look, I bet against him that day that you referred to, the Sam F. Davis, when Owen Almighty was able to beat John Hancock. I picked Owen Almighty. Owen Almighty turned for home. He was a more experienced horse. That was just John Hancock's second career race. And as they turned for home, I'm sitting there going, I got him right where I want him. We got an experienced horse. He's on the outside of John Hancock. He'll go right by him, and he'll beat him, and he's going to look great. And it didn't happen. And it didn't happen because John Hancock saw Owen Almighty and dug right back in and kind of put him away towards the wire. And then you look back and it's like they just beat the Rimson winner Poster by 2 3/4, about 3 lengths. He wasn't, he was gaining some, but not much on him. And it's like, no, I think those two just ran extremely well. My pick of Owen Almighty did his job. He just got beat by a better horse that day, John Hancock. And like you said, Owen Almighty comes up and wins the Tampa Bay Derby in a race. I was high on him again, and he was able to actually do it. So that's good. But it does kind of make you put in the back of your mind, I can't wait for this John Hancock to come back here. I think he's going to be awfully tough at his next start. And then he gets into this race. And look, I think Caldera is a decent horse. I think Built is a decent horse. Tistastic, Vassimo, instant replay the other Cox. But you look at this race and you go, okay, if he is, quote unquote, the real deal, if he is just a really good horse, let's say, this is a good spot for him. He should be able to get the job done. So yeah, John Hancock for me, he's the one they're going to have to catch. And I think he's the one they're going to have to beat.
Aaron, that was so succinct. And I honestly agree with you on so much of those points, as well as the last time he won, he set the stakes record, which is awesome. This horse has been phenomenal in every start, but there's been some weird stuff going on. He was entered last week in the Virginia Derby, and then he's scratched. Yes, he wasn't really entered, but you know what I mean? So my point is, if you're looking for the case, that's what I'm going to build here, because I'm with you. I picked John Hancock as well. Who do you go with? And I think the horse that I landed on next is Caldera. Tyler Gaffleone, talk about that rider switch. How do you feel about that?
Well, I think the rider switch will be good. I don't necessarily dislike who's been on Caldera so far, but Tyler Gaffleone, a big race. That's what you want. So I think that's good. The race is 1 mile and 3/16, and the fairgrounds is an extremely long stretch. So those two things should favor Caldera. Theoretically, that should favor him just fine. You talked to Ryan about the pedigree, and he laid it out for you. He thinks Caldera is going to do good. He even said, hey, he may go longer than 1 1/4 miles and be better. So, but 1 mile and 3/16 here, it's the longest prep race here in the United States. And so I think that's going to be very good for Caldera. Ryan also kind of mentioned in the pedigree analysis, he's like, his opinion was of Caldera is he's learning how to be a racehorse. And I think that's a really, really key thing to kind of think about, because his first few races, you could see talent, but he was also kind of, he didn't really know what was going on. I thought the Sunland Derby, Caldera showed he's figuring it out. And I think that's going to go a long ways towards this race. So can he beat John Hancock? I'm not sure, but is he going to give him a run for his money? I think so.
Very, very good insight there. And, okay, so those are the two, it seems, for me and you, would you say, right? Those are the two, top guys. After that, Built is very interesting. You get Jose Ortiz, who's, the leading rider of the meet, getting on his back. The connections are determined to make the Derby. He won the Gun Runner. He was second in the Lecompton. He was third in the Risen Star. you're seeing he's consistent at this track is my point. He's always been in the money there. Any thoughts on Built, or is there somewhere else you looked as far as underneath, past those two that hit you as the third horse?
Yeah, I mean, Built makes a ton of sense to hit the board. That's kind of who he's been here. He's hit the board in the last two. He did win the gun runner against a weaker group. So Built would make sense. I would keep an eye out for Tistastic. I think he's kind of in that same vein as Built. It's like, hey, we could hit the board here. Asmussen obviously won with Magnitude, a horse that didn't look all that good, and came down here and won a huge, huge race with a big, big speed figure in the Risen Star. Tistastic's not that good, but I think he's another one that a little bit of a decent price that could jump up and hit the board.
Yeah, I guess one more just for fun. Hypnus. I know Kenny McPeak is still very high on this horse. We're going to find out if he's right to be high on him or if he's high on something else going this distance.
You're going to will this horse to the winner's circle, Ryan.
Yeah. No, there's several. I don't blame anyone for taking a shot. There's instant replays, kind of interesting. There's a bunch, guys. But the point is, go have fun. You can make a case anywhere. That's our pick. When we get back, let's talk about the other Derby prep, the Jeff Ruby Stakes over at Turfway Park. You're not going to want to miss it. See you on the other side. Hello, everybody, and welcome back. Saturday, race 12 at Turfway Park is the Jeff Ruby Stakes. This is another 100-point Kentucky Derby prep race. We could see multiple horses make the Derby from this field. Why should you watch? Last year, we saw Seize the Gray finish third here, and he won the Preakness. The year before that, Two Phils won here before finishing second in the Kentucky Derby. And 3 years ago, we saw Rich Strike finish third here and go on to win the Kentucky Derby at an astonishing 80-1 odds. Aaron, this is a must-watch race, isn't it?
Yeah, it didn't used to be. We did have Animal Kingdom back in the day run very well here, but it used to kind of be more of there are some turf horses here, and maybe they'll go on to be good turf horses, but I'm not sure about the Derby. Like you said, you laid it out perfectly. That has changed. And even like you said, last year, maybe we didn't get a Derby winner or whatever, but the Preakness winner was here. So it's crazy. So yeah, no, it's become a very good prep race. I think we have, I don't know that we have a superstar here, I guess is how I'll say it, but I think we've got 4 or 5 horses that are super good and super interesting in this race.
I think so too. In fact, I think if you're talking about the two preps, there's a lot of money to be made here because, man, I was looking at this race, and even though I know who I'm picking, I could see so many horses for underneath that you can make a case for, and it's just like, yeah, oh my gosh, the odds are right. Is that how you saw it too?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a lot of horses that have ran well right here at Turfway Park, which is really important for a race like this because, like I said, it's a synthetic surface, which is different from what these horses usually run on. There's some horses shipping in that maybe haven't been on synthetic, but maybe they've got good turf form, and that turf form, usually the turf will translate well to the synthetic surface. So keep that in mind as well when you're handicapping it. There's a lot of different ways. I like some longer prices, and I also like one shorter price on top, but there's a lot of cases to be made for a lot of these.
So for me, the top 3, Aaron: Poster, Baby Max, and California Burrito. I went with Poster. I'm just going to cut it short because when I got there, I just thought he's the class of this field. Last time out, I loved what he did when he was third to John Hancock and Owen Almighty. In the sense of that race came back to flatter him. There's no shame in losing to those two. Poster, he might not be loving the dirt surfaces, Aaron, as much, and I think he might like it here. Is that maybe how you saw it too?
It's interesting that we can kind of, without really planning this, you kind of tied together something you said in the first segment with here. Sometimes like you judge a race when it happens and you kind of go, well, Poster was third in the Sam F. Davis behind those two. And he was well beaten. And it's like, yeah, that was terrible. But always keep an open mind because now you fast forward a couple of months here and it's like, wait a second. John Hancock's really good. Owen Almighty's really good. Poster was making up some ground on them. He didn't have any pace to run at. And then you look back and you go, you know what? That wasn't that bad of a race. That's actually a pretty good prep race. So that's kind of what happened with the Poster race. So I'm with you and I agree with you on that. And the other thing I really agree on that you touched on, maybe he's not his best on the dirt. Yes, he won the Rimson, but he was kind of slowing down and it wasn't all that impressive. And we kind of talked about Sam F. Davis. He ran okay, but maybe the turf is his best surface. He was really, really good on the turf, winning a couple of nice races. And like I said, I think they found a perfect spot for him. So I'm on number 9 Poster to win as well, because I think it's a really good spot, a little bit weaker field than what he's been facing. And I think the synthetic surface is the best route for him to get to the Derby. So I'm totally in agreement. I think Poster's the one to beat here.
I love that, Aaron. For me, next up, I would think California Burrito makes sense. You know, he won the John Battaglia last time out, 2 wins in a row on synthetic. Any comment from you on him, or you can see that too?
Yeah, I mean, California Burrito, and I'll throw in Baby Max, is that you talked about him as well, and I'll kick it back to you for him. But both of these horses are kind of the same. They've come here. They're winning races here. That you have that proven commodity of they run well at Turfway. And look, California Burrito was able to beat Baby Max last time out. I still think they're close, though. I think they're interchangeable. So, yeah, the 3-6, California Burrito, Baby Max, there's no argument for me on those two.
Yeah, what I liked about Baby Max, Aaron, is, he may have given up more ground to California Burrito in his loss. He was sort of way out in the track. They were even the announcer was commenting there. I don't know if he can turn the tables. He adds blinkers. Maybe that helps. After him, though, look, there's a few X factors for me. I guess we can just go. You just say better pass. Charlie's to blame. Number 2, X factor, better pass for you.
I'll go a little bit longer than just bet. I like him in second. I think he's been really, really good at Del Mar on the turf and Gulfstream Park on the turf. Never seen him on the synthetic. I think he's interesting right here, Ryan. 15-1. I think it's a right price. Get him involved. I do like the number 2, Charlie's to blame.
Very interesting, Aaron. Number 5, Flying Mohawk. X factor for me, better pass for you.
It was a pass for me. I don't hate him, but it was a pass for me this time for Flying Mohawk.
No, I don't blame you. 2 race win streak, never raced on synthetic, only ever raced on turf. You just never know with those horses. Numbers are fine. We'll see. Number 7, Giocoso, X factor for me. Pass, bet for you.
I think he's like a fringe, interesting, maybe play in the bottom of a trifecta or a superfecta. Maybe he can get 3rd or 4th at a big number. Not a win contender for me. His race 2 back over the turf at Churchill Downs gives you hope. They tried the dirt again. It didn't go well, but they've tried the dirt 3 times. It hasn't went well. The synthetic is his best option. He might outrun those 30-1 odds.
Yeah, and DeSormo is just a very good trainer, a little hard to handicap too. Is there anyone else I missed that you want to throw in there that was an X factor for you, or I think we covered it?
I think the 10 Maximum Promise is still the one. I'm kind of waiting. I know the talent is there. He's very immature. They're giving him one more shot. I think that's one to maybe keep an eye on. And I do think we've got to mention just for a second the number 8 Innovator for Dwayne Lucas. He pulled off a huge upset in the Virginia Derby. Innovators never ran on the synthetic. Innovators got a pretty muddled up form, but I do think he's in front when they turn for home. I don't think he'll hold on, but got to give him a shot at 15-1.
Lots of money to be made here, guys. Hopefully we helped you cash there. Just if you're thinking about something, it swayed you in the right direction. That's our show for this week. Next week, I'll be coming to you live from Missouri, where I'll be taping from Aaron's house. We're both going to the Arkansas Derby and the Bluegrass Stakes. If you're going to be there in person, we would love to see you because it would be so fun to always meet the fans. So let us know. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Good luck to everyone betting. I'm Ryan Stillman. He's Aaron Halterman signing off. Thanks for talking track with us.